Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you're having a great day. I love Valentine's Day, and I know a lot of people get kind of sour and salty on Valentine's Day, but I want you to know that someone is rooting for you, someone cares about you. I do, and I hope you have a wonderful day, regardless of if you have a sweetie or not. Hey, let this be a Valentine to you. So you have a Valentine. How about that? Hey, this is your Valentine's gift. I don't know. But we're going to just do a quick little drawing of some conversation hearts. I love looking at Valentine candy. I don't even eat most Valentine candy, but I love looking at it. Same thing with the Easter candy. I love that palette, the Easter color palette. But we're going to start off by sketching a heart with a light green marker and then going in and adding some shading and stippling with a slightly darker green marker. And you can use the lighter marker and actually stipple over the darker area and get a little bit of texture. And that's really what you want with these kind of chalky, I don't even know if they make these anymore. I think they were made by the Necco company and I think they went out of business. But boy, these were not tasty candies. But I just remember loving them as a kid and, making up your little, conversations with them. And whatnot. I always loved Valentine's Day. I don't know. I'm using a light pink marker to kind of tap in or stipple in the words true love on this one. And then I'll layer up some different shades of pink and red because with the stamping on conversation hearts, it's always kind of splotchy and not perfect, very imperfect. And when you're drawing something kind of simple like this, you want to maximize those imperfections, any of those details that you see to give it a little bit more interest and a little bit more realism. I started off with a really pale yellow to sketch this, the other heart there. That heart, I think, ended up a little bit too big and honestly a little too dark, but yeah, c'est la vie. We go on. This is just a fun drawing that we are just kind of doing on the fly for Valentine's Day. And I think sometimes we make our art a little too precious. And that's, I think, the problem that a lot of people have with Valentine's Day. I think that we have such high expectations of the day, and then it can feel like everybody else is a sweetheart but us, and then we can feel kind of bad. And, I think that's what happens with a lot of holidays and why a lot of people feel kind of bummed out and sad on holidays because we have really high expectations. Or, things that have happened around the holidays stick in your mind, and then you may be reliving a trauma every year that holiday rolls around. But I want to say, I hope you can be set free and maybe grab some art supplies and do something for you because you are probably the most important Valentine you'll have. And how you treat yourself and how kind you are to yourself is going to make more difference than how kind anybody else can be to you. So give yourself a gift today, whether it be the time to make some art or do something fun that you enjoy without guilt, and have a nice day. Regardless if you're watching this on Valentine's Day or St. Patrick's Day or whatever day, find a reason to do something nice for yourself and to celebrate. I know I probably sound corny as heck, and I apologize. I know I can be a little bright-sidey sometimes, but hey, I'd rather spread positivity than spread negativity, I guess. But anyways, this was fun to draw. I love drawing sweets and candies, even though, weren't these like the most disgusting candies ever? Do you remember what these taste like? I don't even think they make these anymore. The ones I really loved were the sweet tarts, conversation hearts. Those were delish because I always loved sweet tarts. Those were one of my favorite candies growing up. But the Necco conversation hearts, those chalky little pellets, those were pretty gross, but they were always fun to put in a dish or a vase and just have as a decoration. I would still do that if I could find them. I don't even know if they make them anymore. But I found this reference photo on Unsplash, and I'll try to remember to link it down below. Hopefully I can find it again because I just pulled it up on my computer and started sketching from it. But I just really loved how it was kind of a long and skinny format. And even though I didn't put every heart that I saw there, I decided to make them a little bit bigger so I could do a little more detail. I thought it was a great reference photo, and I'll share that with you. The thing with drawing something like this, though, is it can be kind of boring. So you really want to pick out any little details, any little flaws, and that's where the beauty comes from. Ironically, the beauty in a still life like this, where you're doing a close-up of candy or anything that's iconic that we've seen in our brains all the time and yet ordinary, you want to find the flaws, and the flaws are where the beauty lies. Just like in people, the flaws are where the beauty lies. And I think that's a really good message this Valentine's Day is to embrace what makes you unique and don't try to hide it, and be your true self, I guess. Because that's where you're gonna find your true people, your true friends, your ride or dies, right? And here I'm just layering up some different shades of pink. I'm stippling on texture. Stippling is basically just dotting. Oh, something I want to mention. I'm using a new paper. This is the Mirror Pad by Sketchmarker. Oh, and Sketchmarker is changing their name to Sketchbar. So if you haven't been able to find their stuff, search Sketchbar. I'll link down below to their Amazon shop, which doesn't have everything in it, and also their website, which if you're looking for the alcohol markers, you can get them open stock on their website, and you can get, if you want to buy a set, their sets are like $20 cheaper on their website versus Amazon. So just to give you a heads up, if you were thinking about buying one of the sets, you'll save significantly on the markers on their website. The paper is the same price either place, but just wanted to let you know. But this paper is called Mirror Pad, and this is the A4 size, which is very similar to like American 9x12 size. And I always get confused by when they call the pads like A5, A4. I was thinking A5 should be bigger, but it's like half the size of an A4. So I'm just not used to that sizing standard. But yeah, it's a nice paper. I was curious to try it because it is a no bleed proof paper, meaning like this marker is not bleeding through. I don't have anything in between the sheets, and I can actually work on the back side of this paper. Like you can't see a trace of marker because they have like it's like a laminated paper, I think. So like meaning that there's like plies to it. Like there's the top sheet that you're coloring on, then there's like a sheet in between that's like a buffer, and then there's like a sheet on the back. So that's what I understand. You wouldn't know it. It just seems like a regular sheet of paper, but it's really neat. There's no bleed through. And what you may be noticing here where this is time-lapsed, there's like no marker shift. There's no drying shift. And when I use the render paper by Crescent, which is the only other bleed-proof sketchbook I have where the color doesn't actually transfer to the back side and you can use both sides of the paper, there's an extreme drying shift on the Crescent render paper. So I don't recommend the render paper for beginners for that reason, but I didn't see a drying shift on this, so I think you definitely could use this as a beginner and not really have a hard time with it. There's no ink pooling either on the surface, which I did find a little bit of ink pooling issue sometimes with the render paper, and you'll find that with like marker papers as well. So I would say this is an easier paper to use than the render. I didn't do a lot of blending, so I can't really say whether the blending is going to work well on this paper or not, but it's definitely not as resistant to blending as the Crescent render paper. So if you're looking for an alternative to that, this is cheaper, and it's a little bit cheaper. I mean, this pad was, I think, like $16.90 for 30 sheets, but you can use both sides, so it's like you could do 60 drawings in it. Spiral bound, really nice quality. Yeah, but I think I paid like $16 for a pad that was like half the size of the render paper. So right now I haven't checked the prices on the render today, so I don't know exactly, but it doesn't seem like those prices have gone down, and I bought my render sketchbook a few years ago. Of course, I'm still using it, and I haven't noticed any problems with any sizing or anything on it, so there's that. I mean, it's still holding up really well, but you can try it if you want it, I guess. I'm just kind of going through, adding a little bit of shading. I used they have a set of grays called Simple Gray, and I used like the 1 and 5, I think, for the little shadings that I threw in there. Now I'm using some Derwent Chroma Flow colored pencils because they're nice and opaque and soft. And when you're working on a really smooth paper like this, this marker paper is very smooth. You want a kind of a heavily pigmented or heavily soft, or ideally both, colored pencil if you want to add over top, because it just will, harder pencils will have a hard time finding purchase on a really slick paper. So the Chroma Flows are great for that. I am layering up some whites for highlights. I want to get that chalky look to the candies, because you know these candies, man, they are just like little chalk niblets, you know? So I want to get that look. I am kind of scumbling a little bit of texture over top just to get that that little bit of, chalky texture. So I'm not going for a really smooth effect, basically, is what I'm getting at. I'm going for a textured effect here, which is great because it's quicker to do that. I probably should have done this in a smaller format. I think it would have been easier to get the hearts to look more realistic. But, it was really easy to lay down the markers and not have streaks and, kind of get the look I was after. And it's pretty, I don't want to say boring painting, but it's very a lot of repetition in it. So I was just trying to find the interesting bits so that I could make it worth sketching, I guess. One thing I also wanted to mention about this paper, I don't think I mentioned it already, but I find that the chisel end of your markers work really good for filling in a large area on this paper. So that's what I would recommend if you're using a brush chisel marker. Use that chisel. Actually, if you're using any marker, use that chisel end to fill in. You're going to get a much more uniform fill of color, and you'll save wear and tear on the brush tips. I haven't had any issues on my sketch marker brush nibs breaking down. They are that kind of foam rubber material, so they should hold up really well. And I think for the fact that you're getting a foam rubber tip, the price is fair on these markers. They're quite a bit cheaper than the Copic Sketch. They're about the same price as a Copic Chow marker, so you know it's a nice option if you like that. They're if you prefer a black barrel for like maybe you get a lot of ink smudges and stuff on your markers, a black barrel will hide that look a little bit. So it's, you know, it's the little differences are pretty nitpicky, I would think, between these and Copics. It would be just more of a personal preference, and the ink refills are cheaper, so that's a good thing with these. You get bigger ink refills. I think the ink refills probably cost about the same, but you get a much larger ink refill. It's like twice the size, I believe. So yeah, I'm just kind of puttering around, getting, you know, little details there, adding a white paint pen. And this is the white paint pencil. It's hard to remember to link it. They're from Mr. Pen, and they're wonderful. You get a 6-pack for like $6.99 on Amazon, and they activate really quickly. I kind of like having a 6-pack because I'll throw them in like my different art sketching bags. They're really opaque. They work really well. I'm just kind of like putting it down and tapping it out with my finger to give me that chalky look. And then I'll go in and put some more stylized highlights on there just because I felt like why not? Because I was kind of like not that happy with how it was looking. I'm like, oh, this is kind of a boring subject matter. I really should do something to make it my own a little bit more. So layering up a little more colored pencil. Just to kind of basically pastelize, is that a word? Make the colors more pastel. And that's what I'm kind of doing, just with a little light pressure and lighter colors, and yeah, just scumbling on that extra texture. This was fun. This was a really fun project. I think it's fun to work with colors like this. I mean, how can you not be in a great mood working with like bright, sugary pastel colors? It's just, it's like a sugar rush for your brain. You know, it's a fat-free, calorie-free sugar rush for your brain. And, it's, you know, it's fun. I think the reason I like Valentine's Day is because, I live in Maine. It's very dark and gray and just blah. This time of year. February is the shortest month of the year, but it feels the longest. And I think just having a day where it's just about celebrating, you know, love and friendship and, you know, just the sweets. And I just love those colors. I think that's why I like Valentine's so much, because it's like an excuse to look at, you know, the sugary, pretty colors and have a little bit of break from the winter doldrums, right? So yeah, I know a lot of people will be like, I'll poo-poo Valentine's, corporate greed, yada, yada, yada. Well, you know, you don't have to go buy this conversation hearts. Just look at the picture and sketch them and, you know, get some color in your life for the day. Yeah, so I don't know. It's my eternal hope and optimism. Oh, another thing I liked about this paper is that I could put masking tape down on it. Now, I did stick the masking tape to my jeans before I put it on the paper, but it didn't rip. And usually all my sketchbooks will rip with masking tape. Even some of the watercolor sketchbooks rip with masking tape. So I was just super thrilled about this. I'm outlining with a Tombow Feud pen just to give it a little bit of a heavier outline. And some of the marker ink did bleed out, but I can touch it up with a white paint pen. And there you have it. I really enjoyed how this came out. I hope you enjoyed watching along and it inspires you to sketch something similar. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Happy Valentine's Day. Until next time, happy crafting. Bye.